Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us for the second installment in our M365 webinar series. As you can see from the screen, we'll be going over the Microsoft 365 Power Platform and how you can use tools like Power Apps and Power Automate to simplify your business process and automate work. Today, you'll be hearing from our continuous improvement engineer, Dee Ramos, and as well as our business integrations analyst, Alex Hapka. So just a couple things before we get started. We do have a full hour of content, so if you do have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. If we don't have time at the very end, we'll make sure we get those answers to you in our recap email, but we will try our best to answer those questions at the end if we have time. We'll also be doing a giveaway, so 3 winners, 3 participants of this webinar will go away with either a Lenovo keyboard, a wireless headset, or a power bank, and we'll be announcing those winners at the end as well. So stick around for that. If you have just a couple extra minutes, we'll be announcing those. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Alex and Dee.
Awesome, thank you. And as you already heard, your presenters today are going to be Dee Ramos, continuous improvement engineer for Success Computer Consulting, and myself, business integrations analyst. But I just want to kind of go over the agenda we're going to be going through today. And so what we're planning on doing is, to start with, a lot of people wonder about what is an automation candidate? When should I automate? When is the best time for that? So I'll start off with that. Then we'll follow that over to Dee, who will go over Power Apps, give you a good intro around that. She'll hand it back to me. We'll do a Power Automation intro, and then we'll end with an end-to-end look of both of them in action. Then, if we have enough time, we'll do the questions and answers. As was stated before, feel free to pop those into the chat. Hold the questions until the end, or pop them in the chat, because we might answer it within our presentation. So, without further ado, let's start with this question. Have you ever had a chance that you've thought about a process and you're like, there's got to be a better way to do this? Why is this taking so long? There's so many tasks to coordinate between different people. The worst part of it is that something happened in the process and you don't have any sort of documentation to find your way back to where exactly did it, break down. And these are all valid thoughts to have. It's you wanting to elevate your company to the next level. And what Success is trying to propose is that next level could be automation using the Power Platform, such as Power Apps and Power Automate. But I always recommend, before you go into the creation process, is you want to go in with a plan. Help things be a lot smoother, give you a chance to really think through the process. And you can do that in 3 easy steps. The first and most important is to identify the flow that you wish to automate. Once you have that identified, then you want to create a list of each task that's inside of that process. Now, you have to be very specific about each task. It's human nature that if you have done a process so many times, sometimes we overlook some of the smaller processes that, if they aren't completed, might break down the whole process. So when you're creating that task, the example I like to use is sort of an example about putting together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Envision that you're talking to someone who has never made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before. When you go about telling them how to make it, it's not going to be get the bread, spread the peanut butter and jelly, close and enjoy. Think about it that you're talking to a baby, or you're talking to a robot, that it's actually, you got to get the bread, get the jelly, get the peanut butter. I mean, you're getting my point. So the point is that no task is too small to include inside of this list. Really think it through and think about every single small task. Once you have that list, now with each of those tasks, you want to ask 3 questions. And the first, which I think is the most important, is what is the balance of the task in regards to value and expertise? What I mean by that is best described in this visual here. Basically, the value of it to the process or to the company compared to the expertise or education needed to complete it will determine if it's something that needs to be automated. If it's something that has high value and low expertise, you might be able to automate that particular task. Or maybe it's something that has low value, but it requires a lot of effort to get done. Then you might want to consider if it's a task you even need to still do in that process. The 2 examples that I have here, the first one is a reminder email. It's a very small email. Let's say it's a payment reminder email. It has a very high value because we're reaching out to the clients to make sure they remember that their payment is coming up, but it's a low education or expertise that's needed. Maybe the email is templated, so you have someone just filling that in. Well, it's a 2-minute email that's getting sent out, but if you're doing 30 of them, that's a whole hour of time that you could be automating to take out and take that or give that time back to that person. In contrast, something like an on-site evaluation might require someone who has more education and certifications to understand the equipment and be able to give an accurate representation of where that equipment is. It has a very high value because you and your client are on the same page, but it also requires a lot of education around that. So you might still want to do that task. That doesn't mean there might not be some automation that could be done inside of that task, but for the most part, you probably want to keep doing that. So that's the first question. The second question you want to ask, how much time does it take? Generally, the shorter tasks are perfect automation candidates. The template email is a perfect example of that. 2 minutes of time, easy to automate, but it'll be 2 minutes that you can get back. The other thing about asking this question is it might show you some bottlenecks you have within your process. Maybe there's a task that you're looking at and you're saying, wait, that takes 10 minutes to complete. Well, I think it can get done in 5. Let's take a look at what you're doing and see if there's places that we can speed up there. You might actually get some time back just by doing that. The third question to ask is what programs are you using for the task? And this list of programs is going to become important later on in the presentation, and I'll get back to that. But for the most part, Power Platform has over 500 connectors, which are considered bridges between the program that you're working with and the Power Platform. It doesn't require any coding because the connector itself already has all that coding done and knows which actions you're allowed to take between the two programs, making it very easy to set up. It could also help you to identify what I like to call legacy programs. These might be really old programs that are really good for your process, but they don't have a connector that is pre-programmed. In those instances, you would use what's called a custom API, and that's when you would want to get your IT department involved. And the third thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you put out a flow chart. And the flow chart is essentially going to be your roadmap during the creation process. It's a way to organize the process and each task and when it happens in the process. The best part is that when you get to the Power Automation portion of setting all this up, that's the way Power Automate lays out every action. So essentially, if you're creating that automation and you get a little too carried away with the creation, I do that sometimes myself, I can always look back at my roadmap to make sure that I'm hitting the key actions that need to happen. In that roadmap, you want to highlight those you wish to automate. It'll help you to identify where you can focus that creation part of and what parts are actually, they need to be done by a person. There's no getting around it. It helps to clean up that process as well. I have a small little example here. And as you can see, what I did is I highlighted in blue potential automation candidates just because of the programs they use, the purpose, and what's the task that they're doing. And of course, the time that it takes to get done. So that's my whole spiel about when to automate and when is a perfect automation candidate. I'm now going to go ahead and pass it over to Dee, who's going to give you more look into Power Apps.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So what is Power Automate? So if you think of Power Automate, the definition on the websites, it's a development platform which allows users to act on their data and create web and mobile applications without coding skills. But really, let's break it down into basic terms. Think about it as a hybrid between PowerPoint and Excel. So if you already know those two, you got a good start going. So next, we've got 5 benefits of using Power Apps. The first one, that it's easy to learn. So kind of what I was saying earlier, if you feel really comfortable navigating PowerPoint and Excel, you have a solid foundation to get started in understanding how Power Apps can fit your needs. Second, we've got, you don't need to You don't have to have coding skills, kind of what Alex was saying earlier. There's so much in it that's kind of user-friendly, so no need to worry about coding skills. So third, it can also help you save money. Power Apps can be a single cost-effective platform that's robust and can help you scale to your customized needs. Fourth, you can use your own data. Just as Alex mentioned earlier, there's over 500 connections. Some of those examples are going to be Adobe, Microsoft 365, OneDrive, and also like Salesforce. And then fifth, you can scale with confidence. So Power Apps already has pre-built custom tables in the tool, but you can also add your own data on top of that. So to get started, I'm going to share how you can start using Power Apps from scratch. So when you log into your Office portal, you can go to the waffle on the top left here. Sure that, there it is. So it's going to click on that waffle there, and here you're going to see a short list of Office apps that are available to you. If you don't see Office apps on this list, or I'm sorry, Power Apps on this list, you can click on all apps below. I do have Power Apps right here, so I'm going to click on that. And then next, I need to select one of the 3 types of Power Apps that are available to be created. So to view that selection, we're going to click on Blank App. And there are my 3 options. So the first option is going to be a blank canvas app. So blank canvas is best used when you want full control of the creation of the app. You can add and move data and through fields to fit your custom needs. And that's also recommended for internal use only. So your second option is a blank app based on Dataverse, also known as a model-driven app. So a model-driven app is recommended for scenarios where you need to view and add data quickly. Customization is a little bit more limited, but it is also still recommended for internal. And then the third option is a Power Pages website or a portal app. So portal app is more an external facing app, similar to like a light website. So you can browse that one anonymously. So just for the scenario, we're going to move forward with that blank canvas app. Here, we have to name the app and select the format of our app. So the options formats are tablet and phone. So I would recommend doing some research and understanding how this app is going to be accessed on a regular basis before deciding on the app. So if you select the tablet format, you will have the ability to change the ratio. So for an example, iPads are more recommended to be viewed in a 4:3 ratio, but a Surface Pro 3 is like a 3:2 ratio. So let's just keep going here. So we're going to name our app from scratch. Let's keep that tablet format, and then let's do create. All right, so now we have a blank app that we can customize. There are 3 areas that you want to start knowing. So we've got the tree view on the left, we've got the properties on the right, and the toolbar along the top. So from the toolbar and the tree view, you can add features to the app. And then from the toolbar and the properties, you can adjust the features once they're on the app. So let's click around so I can explain in a little bit more detail. So from the toolbar, let's add a button. We're going to click this insert, and then there's a button here. That's going to drop a button right on our canvas. And here I can drag it and expand to my liking. Awesome. So please note and how the tree view now displays button 1. As I keep adding features, that tree view will continue to grow and display the new additions. So next, let's change the theme color of the app. So to change the theme color, I'm going to select screen 1 from the tree view, and then I'll select theme from the toolbar. And here I can switch it from blue to red. Awesome. And next one I want to show is an icon. So under that insert, we have icons, and then we can expand this menu. There's a lot of options, but I'm going to select airplane. And here it's saying I'll expand and drag that around as well. So another great feature from this insert menu is this search bar along the top. So if I type in circle, my menu will filter down to the 5 different types of circles that are already available. So I'm going to select half circle, and that'll drop onto my canvas also. And let's drag that over. Okay, so now let's add a new screen. To add a new screen, you can do that from 2 spots. We've got that toolbar along the top, and we've got the tree view on the left. So let's go with the tree view. And then from here, you can see my templates options that are available. We've got layouts and templates. So if I click over to templates, some of the examples that are already created are list, email, and people. But just to keep things simple, let's keep on going with that blank stuff. So I'm going to click that blank one. And have you been noticing that tree view? It does keep on changing. So now you can see that I'm going to collapse screen 1, and I can click easily between screen 1 and screen 2. All right, this is the exciting stuff that I like. So there are a few more features I want to share here. So I'm going to add 3 text boxes. So same here, insert and text label. There's that first one. I'm going to do that 2 more times. And there's that third box. All right. So if you note on that tree view, I've got label 1, label 2, and label 3. So let's select label 1 and let's make some changes to that one from the toolbar. So up here, I'm going to change that font size to 40. I'm going to change the weight to bold. I'll change the color to purple. And then from that formula bar, I'm going to get rid of that word text and I'm going to type in the number 100. All right, so let's make similar changes to label 2, but let's do that from the properties side. So same, we're going to select label 2. And over here on the right, I'm going to change that word text to the number 200. I'm going to change the font to Dancing Script. And then I'm going to change the font size from 13 to 60. All right, let me expand that box so we can see the actual number 200. Awesome. All right, so next we're going to focus on label 3. So I want to make label 3 our formula box. So first I'm going to change the font. It's 13. Let's change it to 100, make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to make that box bigger there. There we go. All right. So now I want to make label 3 display the sum of label 1 and label 2. So if I write the formula correctly, it's going to say 300 when we're done. So we're going to start with deleting that word text from that same formula bar like we did earlier. And here I'm going to start typing the word sum. And then it's going to select that below, and it's going to open that parenthesis. And now I need to identify the fields that we're going to add together. So I'll type in label 1, comma, label 2, and then I'll close that parenthesis. And there it is. Label 3 now displays the sum of label 1 and label 2, which is at 300. So if I change the content in label 1 to 200, label 3 will update automatically. Awesome. And then lastly, the same with label 2. If I change that, you can see how it changes on label 2. I'm sorry, label 3. Okay, so next we're going to move on to settings. That's on the top here on the toolbar. And within settings, we've got display. And within display, I just want to show that we've got, here's where you change the orientation of your app if you needed to, landscape or portrait. And then we have the size below. And that's where I was calling out the ratios from earlier. We've got a couple different options. All right, lastly on this demo, we've got the save button, top right corner. Once that's saved once, the Power App will autosave for you every 2 minutes going forward. So that sums up my quick overview of creating apps from scratch completely. So I hope that's really exciting to you. It's pretty easy to get started, but let's get back to that PowerPoint to talk about another way. So as you might recall, we mentioned earlier those 500 connections that are available. One of those connections is a SharePoint list. So it's super exciting for me to start completely from scratch, but I can acknowledge that it is a daunting task if you've never really done this before. So what I want to do next is I'm going to assemble a list with you together, and I'm going to show how that list can smoothly transition into a Power App, and then we're going to show how they work together. So if you're going to keep track, it's going to be 8.5 minutes going forward. So if you could move over to the next screen, Alex, and then once I'm done, Alex will take over and do like the end-to-end as he mentioned earlier, and the Power Automate. All right, so let's get started from a home screen on a SharePoint page. And then from here, we're going to create a list. So we'll go to New, and then we'll select List, and then we're going to click on Blank List. Perfect. So let's name this list Paid Time Off Request List. And I'm going to uncheck the Show from Site Navigation and click Create. All right, so if this is a SharePoint list, it starts with a title column. We can ignore that for now. So the first column that I'm going to add is going to be a requester column. So as in who is requesting the time off. So So we're going to click add column. The type of column is a person, and then we're going to hit next. We'll name that column requester and then hit save. Awesome. So the next two columns we're going to add are going to be date columns. So we're going to do add column, date type, and next. And we'll name that start date and save. We're going to do the same with the end date. So add column, date and time, next, and date for the name, and hit save. Okay, so the fourth column is going to be the type of time off. So for this, we're going to do a choice format. And we're going to hit next. And here we're going to name this the type of time off. And we're going to be requesting time off. So we've got potentially sick time, paid time will be our second scenario. And jury duty will be our third one. And I think I actually skipped over this. I'm assembling a list for when you're trying to request time off. And then Alex will describe the part of how the automation works to get the approval of the time off or not. So, all right, next column is going to be the reason for request. We've got a text field for that. So let's repurpose this title column. We'll do that drop menu here and select column settings, and we'll hit rename. And then here we're going to call it reason for request and click save. Perfect. So now let's drag that all the way to the end of this table here. Awesome. So we've got our sixth column is going to be the approve and deny column. So that's going to be a yes or no format. So we'll add column, yes or no, hit next. And let's name that approve and deny and hit save. We've got the evaluator column, just like the requester column, that's going to be a person type column. So add column, person and next. Perfect. And then the last column is going to be the evaluator reason. So an open text field. So we're going to do add column one more time. This is going to be a text field and then next. Evaluator reason and save. All right, that's 3.5 minutes. So we have assembled a list. Next, we're creating the app. So the settings of this list are going to greatly help with how the Power Apps is set up. So from here, we're going to click on integrate along the top. And from that drop menu, we have Power Apps and create an app. I'm going to name the app Paid Time Off Request App. And I'm going to click create. Awesome. So in a few seconds, we're going to have a 3-screen Power App that will be created based on that SharePoint list. So now that we have that app created, let's explore the 3 screens that were created from the tree view. So we've got browse screen 1. So once populated, it's going to display the submissions here on this list. The second screen is going to be detail screen 1. And then lastly, we've got edit screen 1. And then edit screen 1 is going to be the form to be filled out by the requester. So let's take a closer look at edit screen 1 fields. And I want to display how the SharePoint list settings carried over into the app. So along the top, we've got reason for request. That's going to be an open text field. Next, we've got the requester, which is that person type column from the list. Next, we have the start and end date already in date formats. And then we have type of time off. And just like the choice format from the SharePoint list, my options are going to be, you guessed it, sick time, paid time, and jury duty. So if I scroll down, the next 3 fields are meant to be filled out by the evaluator. So those should be view only. So we've got that first one is the approve and deny. That yes or no format becomes a toggle. The evaluator is that name will go here, and evaluator reason, which is that open text. So before moving forward and sharing the app with employees, we want those 3 fields to be view only. So from the tree view, let's make those changes together. So we're going to click on edit form 1, and then we're going to check out properties. Here I want to call out that data source is listed. So below we have edit fields. And if you click on that, I want you to note that the fields mirror the SharePoint list and the stuff that's listed on the app. Awesome. So the first change I want to make is that I want to move that reason for request. I don't think that should be that first field. So let's drag it below the type of time off. And it moves over. All right. And then the next three are going to make those view only. So we're going to select that approve and deny, and we're going to change that control type. Instead of edit toggle, we're going to make that a view toggle. All right. And we're going to do the same for the next two. So we've got the evaluator field. Once that's selected, we're going to change that drop menu from edit selection to view selection. And last one, we've got the evaluator reason. Select that, drop menu, change that over to view text. Perfect. So if you were watching the app, all of those three fields are now view only. So next we got to test it. So we can go back to browse screen 1, and to test the app, we're going to click the play button on the top right of the screen. When in test mode, that tree view and property panels are not displayed on the app. So we're going to fill out the app. To start my submission, the first thing I want to do is click that plus sign on the top right. So I'll open that up. And the requester is going to be myself. So I'll start typing my name, Dee. And I want to remind you that we made this a person type setting. So it looks up the information of within my organization on who I am. So it does populate my information. So I can type in Taylor, and it does show her email address and her image. So it does locate those people. Let's switch that back to me. And then next, let's add the start and end dates. I'm going to go with the last week of March. So we find the date, select that, we'll hit OK. Let's do the end date. Perfect. And then type of time off, I'm going to request paid time. And let's insert a reason here. Let's do spring break, because we all need a little bit more sunshine in our long winters in Minnesota. Awesome. So then now you can see how those next three fields are already view only. So lastly, what I need to do is I need to hit that checkbox on the top, and that's going to submit my request. And that takes me back to that browse screen 1, if you remember, and there's my submission. And then also, because we started this app from the SharePoint list, anything I enter on this app goes back to that list. So I'm going to navigate to that SharePoint list, and I will refresh my screen, and you'll see that submission. All right, and there it is. Perfect. So as I promised, 8.5 minutes. So the list is created, the app was created, and we tested it. So now that I'm happy with the app, no other edits are needed, we can send this into production. So we're going to go back to that app. And to get out of that test screen, we're going to click this X on the top right here, and that'll take me back to that edit mode. All right, so for safe measures, let's give it a quick save. Top right, if you remember from earlier. You can also do a control save, that also works here. Perfect. So now that it's saved, let's get to sharing it. So 4 buttons to the left, we've got share. We'll click on that, and that's going to take me to a new share screen. All right, and then here I can share the app with individual email addresses, but I can also share it with a group of people as needed. So let's start with sharing that back to Alex Hapka. I'll select him. All right, and then a best practice, it's always to have 2 or more owners on an app. So I'm going to select this box here and assign Alex as a co-owner. Below, it says down here that it will send an email to all of our new users. And if needed, up here, we can add messages to that we can add to the email. I just need to hit send. Alex knows it's coming. He's listening. So now that Alex has access to the app, he can go to his device, his phone, his tablet, download the Microsoft Power Apps onto his phone. And then once he's logged in, he can find that app already available to him. So that sums up my portion of what Power Apps is, a quick little intro. So now Alex is going to take over and show how, once that request is submitted, how you can use Power Automate to get that approved. Thanks, Alex.
Great. Thanks, Dee. Thanks, Dee. Yes. So first I want to talk about Power Automate. Like, What is it? It's known as what's called a low-code, no-code solution, and it's not just Power Automate, it's the whole Power Platform. And what that means is that there's very little that you need to understand coding-wise to be able to set this stuff up. If you are someone who really likes to do coding, it does have advanced options that you can do more coding inside of it as well. It's accessible in the Microsoft ecosystem. It's included within that Microsoft 365 licensing, and you're able to use it with standard connectors such as SharePoint List, OneDrive, Microsoft Outlook, etc. Goes without saying, it's an automation, so it's going to help expedite a lot of your processes. And it's very easy to use, especially with templates that are available and proven to work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So for now, I want to go ahead and showcase how to create a Power Automate automation from scratch. Very similar to the way that you would do it with Power Apps, you would go to office.com, and then from there, you would click on the waffle icon that's in the upper left-hand corner. Now, once you click on this, it's going to give you the apps that you use the most at the very top. If you don't use a certain app enough, it might not show up here. But like Dee was saying with Power Apps, you can certainly click all apps and be able to see a whole list of everything available to you. But now that we're into the Power Automate home screen, we're going to go ahead and click this Create button. And this will offer two ways to be able to create an automation. You can start from blank, which in this instance, you would identify the trigger and then just lay it out. You could do an automated cloud flow. Maybe it's more manual. Maybe you have a button that you push that kicks it off. You can also do something called scheduling the cloud flow. These are the most common ones. And then at the bottom here, this is what I was talking about with the template, but I'll go a little bit more into that later. But back to our scenario, I'm going to pick up where Dee left off. Somebody puts in a request. How does it get sent to the evaluator for approval? And the other way to start creating a flow is from the SharePoint list itself. Using that same list, we can use the integrate button that is in the upper hand corner here. And once you click on that, you'll see that it has the other options. We'll go ahead and hover over Power Automate and select Create Flow. This will automatically bring those sources together. And so as you can see, it's already given me some templates that it recommends to use for any sort of SharePoint list. I recommend looking at these templates first because they may already be solving your need, thus avoiding creating the flow from scratch. It also allows you to add any new steps to that template. So if you click on a template and it's missing a crucial step for your process, you can certainly add that on as well. What we're going to use is the start approval when a new item is added. This is perfect. When somebody puts a new list item in there, we want it to send out an approval. So after you click it, it'll bring you to the screen and it'll tell you which programs are being used for that particular template. This is where that list of programs is very helpful because you can use this list to cross-reference. It also will need a connection. Basically, you're telling Power Automate, I give you permission to do these actions and use these programs. And as you can see, it's already automatically signed me in. But if you are missing a connection, or maybe there's someone else working on the flow, you can certainly create a new connection by highlighting and hovering over these three dots over here. And then you can click Add a new connection. This is good if multiple people are working on it, or if there's certain programs that they have access to, but you do not. So I'm going to go ahead and click Continue to be able to spin up this flow. Now, this may seem overwhelming at first, but it's quite simple. What we're telling Power Automate is that when a new item is created, I want you to go ahead and start an approval and send it off to the person I assign here, which in this case will be me. Then, based off of that response, I want you to go and send an Outlook email to the person that originally requested it of either the approve or deny. And then I want you to go ahead and update that SharePoint list with the answer. And that's going to form two forms of communication, one in the app and one on the list. Now, as you can see in each of these actions, there's a square that is associated with that. And these I like to compare to Mad Libs. Essentially, we have collected all the information for these fields and are telling Power Automate to go and fill in the blanks. This is customizable by clicking into the action and then looking over to the right at the dynamic content. And then all you need to do is go ahead and click what you would like inside of the action. And as you can see, it just fills it in. And then, of course, any text that you type inside of here would be stagnant. It'll always be there. This is a great option for any email templates that you might have. But coming back to this scenario, we're missing a step. Once a decision is made, we need to update the list. As the list is updated, like I said before, it will write back to the Power app, and that creates those two modes of communication via email and via the app. Since this action is making a decision based off the response, it has multiple paths the automation will follow. Updating the SharePoint list will need to happen regardless of what is chosen. Therefore, I need to create an action for both paths, once for the approved and once for the denied. This is where that list of programs comes in handy. Let's go ahead and start with the approved. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click Add an Action. It now shows all the actions I can put in this particular spot. And you'll notice that it has the list of all the programs there, which are categorized in two buckets. Either it's standard, which is included with your Microsoft 365 along with a couple choice apps, or premium, which is generally third party and requires some sort of licensing. As you click the program, it will also select it and give you a list of the actions below that you're able to select from. It's a way of being able to filter it. Or you could just go down here and scroll through and find the action that you're looking for. That's an option as well. But for me, I want to be able to search for it. So I'm going to go up to the search function and click Update a List Item. You can see it gives the icons on the left of the program that's associated with it. So I found a SharePoint and update an item. And to make sure that I get the exact site of where this list is located, I'll copy that site from the list. And then I'm going to be putting it into this first section called Site Addressed. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to scroll down and click Enter Custom Value. Then I'm going to select the list, which is the paid time off list that Dee had already made. Now we need to tell the automation which item to update. Well, we have all that information from the previous steps, so we can fill in the different fields with its respective parts using that dynamic content. And then once we get down to the approve or deny, that's going to be that drop down that Dee was talking about. And for this branch of the decision, we want it to approve. So we're going to select yes. Then we're going to want to put in the reasoning behind it. Well, we've collected that information too from the approval step previously. So as you can see, we have those options. I'm going to go ahead and select the comments because that's what was put in from the approver. And we also want to know who approved this, right? So from there, I'll enter that custom value and select the dynamic content that gives me the email of the approver. Awesome. Now we just need to create it for the deny as well. Now that I have everything set, all looks good. So all we need to do is save it. And then you can also test the flow using this test button in the upper right-hand corner. And from there, it's going to give you an option to either use a previously entered option or to manually put that in. Well, since we have nothing that we've previously done, we're going to manually put in the trigger. And we'll do that from the SharePoint list. So we'll go over to the list and we'll add a new option. Now, again, we're just testing this, and I recommend testing before you roll it out, just to make sure there's no kinks in the flow. So we'll get all that information in, and then we'll go ahead and click Save. So now that's in. We'll go back to the automation. And you can see that it's running here. We want green checkbox. It's waiting for the approval. Came in an email, and that's what this looks like. And so you see the statement text that we have in there. The dates are there. Click Approve, put in our comments, and then Submit. Notice how it waited for me, and now we have green check marks. If you find a red circle, you can always use this flow checker to check what the error is and how to fix it. Or it might give you a warning saying, this may work, it may not. You might want to look into it. So now that automation has finished with no errors and it's ready to complete that process. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home page to really stress what Dee was saying earlier. With anything in Power Apps and Power Automate, you want to have two owners. And for Power Automate, you can do that here, where you have this little owner section on the home page of the automation. This is in case somebody were to be promoted, or maybe they leave the company for some reason. Those permissions go with them. And if you don't have two owners and you want to come in to edit the flow, if that other person has left the company, you can't access it. So then the only way to do anything is to create it completely new. And so that's how easy it is to spin up a flow. And we did that from a template. It only took like probably about 5 to 7 minutes with some pauses as I was explaining. And we were able to test it and it worked just fine. But now we want to take it a step further. So we created a Power App. We created the automation for the approval flow. What does that look like end to end? And to do that, we're going to use a video from a previous presentation that we did that has a similar scenario, but it just might look a little different. So as you can see here, this is the Power application, similar to what Dee was showing you. We want to create a new item. We'll go ahead and put in the necessary information. So in this instance, Dee would like to have some time off. Puts in the date from the past. She might do a little time travel in that instance. PTO time. Cabin weekend, always fun. And as you can see, the other part is view only. So now we come back to that list. It showed up there, and now the automation is running. And here we go. It's waiting for that approval. And there that is. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. Make sure she knows to have fun. Sometimes people forget. And we'll go ahead and submit it. So now that approval went through, we got green across the board. Again, if you were to run any red circles, I kind of glazed over it a little bit, but to get to it, if you click edit, you can use that flow checker to be able to see where that error is and what warnings I might have. So now that was successful, we go back to the list, we'll refresh that list, and there's the approval. But that's not all. We want to make sure that it goes back to the application as well, because that's part of our modes of communication. So here's that cabin weekend. Just going to refresh the app and click in, and there we go. We have that it was approved and the reasoning that's associated with it. So something that probably took a lot longer to get someone's attention, to find an email. How many times do those emails get buried? It was all compressed into a small process to get finished. So with that, that wraps up my portion, and now we can open up for questions if there's any out there.
Hey, Alex, we do have one from Eddie in the chat. He asks, can an M365 admin change permissions on Power Automate Flow in case an employee leaves?
I believe they would be able to find the password and all that stuff to be able to get in there. But really, it does lock down for privacy of being able to lock down so other people can't get there. But if the admin is able to find the password or be able to reset the password, then they would be able to access that particular flow.
All right, and then we have another question from Christina. She says, what's the best way to learn more about this app or get training?
That is the most common question we get asked. So both Dee and myself, when we first got to Success, we knew nothing about this. And I'll speak more so for myself, and then Dee, if you want to chime in afterwards. But when I first started here, the key for me was being able to search for videos of SMEs that are out there that are actually able to present little bits and pieces. And I took my time every single day to watch like a quick 5-minute video about something that I wanted to learn. And the other part of it was, as I was playing with the particular application, if I ran into a roadblock, I would also use the overwhelming network that is the Microsoft community, where they do a lot of these videos on walking through step by step and how we do this. Other than that, Microsoft Learn is a great tool as well. They have quizzes on there. They have step-by-step windows that you can definitely look at.
I'll add my 2 cents as well. Kind of the same thing that he was saying. There's like the SMEs out there that we can look at, the tools. The one thing that I like to call out is that sometimes learning, it's like we're very chaotic. We've got a lot of things going on a daily basis that we can easily like, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. Like, let's prioritize that. Let's put 15 minutes on a Friday afternoon. I'm going to go find something. I'm going to watch a YouTube video, 15 minutes, read something. And that just helps like grow on what you have. And it also helps like trigger like other ideas that you can just dive into and learn a little bit more. So also be mindful that don't get lost after those 15 minutes. Like, oh, that's super cool. Let's keep on going. But just make it a priority.
Great. Then we have another question from Sarah. She says, do you have to have a Microsoft account to access an app?
Yes, it's made within the tendency of being able to use the particular app that we had set up. But there are other options that is more customer facing, but that's another licensing part of it.
And then from Amy, we have, I usually add new columns via list settings. I know there are some options like formatting that are easier if you add in the list page and not through settings. Is it better to add columns to a list the way Dee did, or does it matter?
I can go there since it says D, but I don't think it matters. I think the way I did it is just a little bit more user friendly. It's just kind of a lot of white space, one button, add column here, but it does the same purpose. There's a little bit more features if you go into that list settings, but I thought today was sufficient. So.
Great. And then from Doug, he asks, in the time off example, would there be a way to send to different supervisors for approval depending on the employee who submits the request?
Yes, there would be ways of being able to do that. And again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier with the templates about how you can add certain actions. In that instance, you could do what's called an apply to each and be able to then evaluate who it is. And based off of that, I want the manager of that person. Because when you're looking at people pickers in SharePoint lists or inside of Power Automate, it's all powered by Azure AD. So when you pull in that person, you also pull in all the information that's attached to that person. So maybe it's sent to the manager of that person and not so much a specific person. It'd be more of that dynamic content or Mad Libs that I call them.
Great. Those are all the questions. Oh, just kidding. Deb just sent a question. She asked, can you send approvals to multiple people in one flow?
Yes, you can. You can put multiple people either in that particular assigned to column, or there is a action that is specific to multiple users. And in that case, you get the option of saying either wait for all of the approvals to come back, or only wait for one approved to move forward.
Okay, cool. Now that is all the questions in the chat. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to post them there. We do still have about 10 minutes left. If no one else has any questions, though, I will be announcing the winners of our giveaways. So Colleen asks, if we don't want to build it ourselves, will success do it for us?
That's a good question. I'm going to take that back, and maybe we can get back to you. I would definitely talk to your account managers. I'm not sure if that's really an offering at the moment. So yeah, I'll take that back, and we can put that into the recap.
Great. No other questions? Well, thank you so much, Dee and Alex, for your wonderful presentation. I will be announcing the winners of our giveaway. So I'm so sorry if I butcher anyone's names. I'm going to try my best. But the winner of our keyboard is Colleen Hayes. I'm sorry if I got your last name wrong. The winner of our wireless headset is Elizabeth Zuzek. And the winner of our laptop power bank is Jenny Bang. I'll be emailing you guys with instructions on how you can claim those prizes. So be on the lookout for that. If we don't have anything else, we do have one more webinar in this series that'll be on April 2nd, and the topic is Zero Trust Security and other Microsoft security features. So you can visit our website to register for that, and there will also be a link in our recap email. So thank you, everyone.